Now, one of the biggest complaints that I have certainly had in this entire Russia conflict and about a lot of the national security apparatus, the global order of national security, is that the Europeans feel increasingly asleep at the wheel. Europe as a country, or Europe as a continent, as 2/3 of the population of the United States. They have an economy that's roughly also 2/3 the size of the United States. So then you have to ask yourself, why is, when it comes to defending the interests of the West, the responsibility falls solely to the United States? And I wish it was different. I wish there was an alternative. I wish anyone else could step up. But according to the most recent polling, the average European may not actually think Europe is worth defending. That sounds insane, but according to this polling data, over half of Germans would not fight to defend their own country, which is insane because, as you may recall, unlike the United States, whose global enemies are sort of far flung and far away, the Germans have some enemies that are quite close, right? Germany is here, and Russia, who has explicitly said, Russia and their ally Belarus are literally separated from Berlin by I don't know, I'm going to say less than 1,000 kilometers. Like, you could get from Berlin to the Belarusian border in maybe a day of driving, right? So Germany has a clear present enemy who, by the way, as we know, has shown in the 20th century on at least 3 different occasions a willingness to absolutely invade their neighbor, take it over, and implement their version of a new economic order, a new political order. So despite having an actual coherent threat, one that is, by the way, the Russian military today at 600,000 people strong is probably about 6 to 12 times the size of the German military, FYI. And still, despite this obvious and imminent threat, most Germans probably or definitely would never want to actually take up arms to fight for their country, which is insane, right? This was a survey. Again, 2/3 of Germans would probably not defend their homeland from invaders. Again, not like a foreign war, not like a go to Afghanistan and fucking hand out naan to Afghans and get blown up, but literally defend the land that you live. This is from a German broadcaster, but you can see that only 16% of Germans said they were definitely willing to take up arms to defend their home, which is insane because I'm pretty sure you could get 22% of Americans to definitely sign up to defend Germany. And this is actually a huge problem because, as they point out, the German defense minister, he needs to bring in at least 40,000 young adults per year into the German armed forces as part of a goal to essentially rearm Germany, right? They're trying to get to 5% GDP. They've kind of realized, they said, listen, the United States, they're not the reliable security partner that Germany needs right now. You notice that, again, you had Biden come in and be like, well, I'm a NATO partner. We're all in on this together. But before that, there was Trump who was like, well, I may defend NATO. I may not. You guys aren't spending enough. And, he was kind of right because, again, it's a phrase in the markets. It's called TINA. It stands for there is no alternative. And that's kind of the problem here, is that you notice that even if somehow Germans have a change of heart, and the German prime minister is able to recruit 40,000 young adults into the German military. For context, guys, by the way, the Russian military recruits approximately this number every month. So already the Russian military mobilizing, again, 6 to 12 times as many people. The Germans, even to do this paltry number, this is going to have to be a ramp up that's going to take place over the next 6 years. Okay? So for the next 6 years, even the German military, staffed by a bunch of people who probably don't even really want to be there, don't think their country is worth defending. And if you want to defend Europe, you basically have to count on the United States and, more importantly, Americans to do the job, right? Right. They also plan on creating a basically draft list, again, like the U.S. Selective Service, where simply young German males fill out a thing, once they turn 18, just to make sure they don't have some compelling reason like, oh, I'm disabled, or I don't, I have a congenital heart defect or whatever. And then they have health screenings just to make sure they are able to be called up. And this is, I think, just, it's hard to say why this is. I don't know enough about Germany to speak to it. But I will say that sometimes, at least my time in Europe generally, there was increasingly a sense of like, your country doesn't matter. The country's just a bureaucratic institution. And one of the things that the United States does, and honestly that Russia, Vladimir Putin explicitly does and continues to do, is create a national myth and ethos. This idea that there is a Russianness, and it's not an ethnic, it's not a specific ethnicity, though in Vladimir Putin's case, it is. He says, listen, there is a Russianness, and that Russianness is naturally superior. But you have to have a country that says, listen, the people in this country it's not just land borders. It's not just an economy that makes money that you pay taxes to. It's a set of values, of things that are persistent across time, and that those values are worth defending. That the German government and ruled by German democracy and Vladimir Putin's autocracy are not like kind of the same thing. Well, I would pay just taxes to the Kremlin instead of to Berlin. And in America, we know intrinsically that's not true. Like, we would not be the same country if our government was to get wiped away and replaced by a Chinese puppet government, right? That was like, we're going to make you guys a communist paradise. We would know as Americans on like a fundamental level that was wrong, that America embodied a different set of ideas about individual liberty and representative government that simply the Chinese don't do. Even if they were to have better taxes, even if they were to have, a bunch of fucking, even if they were to send us all a check and a turkey dinner every Thanksgiving, the Chinese wouldn't have Thanksgiving, of course. It still wouldn't be right. There would be something wrong about it. It would still be meaningful to defend the country because its values mean something. And the fact that so many Germans miss this, cannot meaningfully say that the difference between a free Germany and its representative government and a Germany dominated by literally a foreign autocratic power are kind of sort of just the same, right? They're all kind of bad. They're all fucking a capitalist hellscape. Like, okay, dude, like, sure. Okay. Well, if that's all the same, you should just go live in Russia. They have a lower tax rate, right? And so this, I think, is reflective of the fact that right now, today, right. Oh, yeah. Here's another thing. A survey found Italians said the same thing. Only 16% of Italians willing to defend their nation, despite their goal to increase defense spending tremendously. But again, we talk about the fact that, yeah, it's true that the U.S. military industrial complex can do things that no other country can do. And I point this out too, because this is true logistically. Like, here's a story again. Spain has decided, hey, we don't really want the F-35, right? Because, well, they don't have a lot of trust in the United States to be a consistent partner. That's understandable. But you see why. Spain, if they want to have a new modern fighter, they can take the Eurofighter, which is, of course, a conventional fighter jet. And this is sort of right. Here's the Eurofighter Typhoon. But you look, this has been a multi-role fighter that is, introduced in 2003 and first flew in 1994. It is cheap. It is easy to fly, but it has a little problem that you may note. And that is that it has no stealth capabilities. This thing is glowing and would easily be shot down by a manpads. Again, as we've pointed out, that a lot of aircraft like F-16s and even some of these Eurofighters, I think, were in Ukraine, but neither Russia nor the Ukrainians now put their aircraft anywhere near the front lines. These aircraft have really ancillary roles. Literally, Russia just uses them to launch cruise missiles from a slightly higher altitude from deep inside Russia. That's all they use their aircraft for. Like, they don't go anywhere close to the front lines. And so you need to have something with stealth capabilities. That's the reason why the Israelis were able to smoke Iranian air defenses, is because they had the F-35. But you might say, well, okay, well, why doesn't someone just build their own F-35? And the Europeans kind of said the same thing. They said, yeah, we're going to build our own F-35, the FCAS. This thing is going to be just as good, guys. This is going to be the future air combat system. It's going to be a drone swarm. It's going to look really cool. Look at this. You may think to yourself, man, that just seems like a cardboard silhouette. And then you go, oh, this thing, by the way, a flight demonstration might not show up for 2 years, and it won't enter service for 15 years. So Spain, if they don't want to fly the F-35, they can try to fight for the next 15 years with Eurofighters, already a 30-year-old air platform that is demonstrably incapable of fighting the wars of today, and hope that in 15 years, this cardboard cutout turns into a real fighter. And FYI, there's one thing we learned about the F-35. It's that the time between cardboard cutout and real combat aircraft is like twice as long as you think. But if it's twice as long as we think, literally it'll be 2060. By that time, wars will probably be fought in fucking space or in the fourth dimension or something. So this is the kind of shit that I talk about. Like, yeah, the Europeans laboring in absolute delusion here, right? Delusional. Like, ultimately, how can you have you need to have a country that's worth defending, right? Like, am I stupid here? Did I miss the memo that, like, my own military service, like, am I the sucker? No, I'm not stupid, right? Somebody has to think that Western values are worth defending, like democracy, representative government, individual liberties. Or just having a government that can't just fucking push you out a window because they don't like you, or send you off to a camp somewhere, you know? Try being a dissident in China. See how things go there, right? And so, you know, I point this out because a lot of people sit there and go, why is it America's job to do this stuff? And I'm with you. It shouldn't be our job. The Europeans could be shouldering 2/3 of the defense burden of this country, of the Western world, right? They represent, between us and the Europeans, we represent like 50, 60% of global GDP, of all the economic activity on planet Earth, right? You add in Western countries like Japan, South Korea, and you're talking about probably like 65% of all economic activity, a huge portion of all people. But somehow there's only a couple of these countries whose citizens actually understand that these values are not just a given. It's not like if Russia took over Germany or takes over Ukraine, like, Ukrainians won't remain democratic. They won't have a representative government. They won't get a say in how their country is run. And that is a value that only exists because every single generation, people show up and defend it. Guys, thanks so much for checking out the video. Hit that subscribe button. That makes a huge difference for me. But also, if you want exclusive videos, including uncensored videos of combat that YouTube would never let me show you, you want to become a member at combatvetnews.com.